The city never slept, but in his towering glass mansion on the hill, Alexander Ford felt nothing but silence. A billionaire by title and fortune, he had once believed that power and money could protect him from disappointment, betrayal, or heartbreak. But the truth had carved its way into his bones over the years. No matter how many people surrounded him at parties, no matter how many smiles he bought with his wealth, there was always one thing he could never buy: trust. Real, unshakable trust. That morning, as the sun painted the horizon with streaks of gold, Alexander sat in his study, staring at the single black credit card resting between his fingers. To most, it was just a piece of plastic. To him, it was a mirror that could expose a person's soul. He had grown tired of the charades, the constant pretending. Every day someone wanted something from him: fame, connections, comfort, money. Even the people who claimed they admired him for his mind, or his heart, or his vision, revealed themselves eventually. Their affection always had a price tag. He leaned back in his leather chair, gazing at the card, and whispered to himself, "Freedom reveals the truth, and money is the cruelest form of freedom." It was in that quiet reflection that the idea came to him, not as a game, but as a test. He wanted to see what the women around him would do if given unlimited access to his wealth. What would they reveal about themselves when no boundaries were placed in front of them? He already knew that money didn't change people. It simply magnified who they already were. He picked up the phone and, with a voice as calm as always, summoned 3 women to his mansion the next morning. The first was Rebecca. Everyone in the city knew her name. A model whose face graced billboards, whose laughter sparkled at every gala and party. Rebecca had a way of making men believe she saw only them, when in truth her eyes never strayed far from the wallets they carried. She wasn't cruel, she was clever. A woman who had learned early that beauty was her currency, and she spent it lavishly. Alexander had seen her glide across rooms with the grace of a queen, and though she flattered him endlessly, he always suspected her admiration was more for his fortune than for the man himself. The second was Clarissa, the daughter of a wealthy family who had fallen from grace. Her parents' empire had crumbled years ago, but Clarissa had maintained the illusion of prosperity through charm and sharp wit. She was older than Rebecca, sophisticated, with a habit of speaking in a low, persuasive tone that made people feel as though they were sharing secrets with her. She often told Alexander, "I admire your mind. Your vision is what separates you from all the rest." But behind her polished words and knowing smiles, he sensed something hollow. She admired power because she had lost it and wanted it back. And then there was Maria. Unlike the first two, Maria never entered grand rooms or glamorous parties. She worked quietly in the mansion, cleaning floors, polishing silver, folding clothes. Her hands were calloused, her hair often tied back in a simple braid, her clothes plain and unremarkable. She rarely looked Alexander in the eye, not out of disrespect but out of humility. He had noticed her kindness in small ways, the way she left fresh flowers in his study without being asked, the way she hummed softly to herself as she worked, the way she always greeted everyone, even the other staff, with the same soft respect. It was strange, Alexander thought, how often his eyes drifted toward her when she walked into a room. There was nothing dazzling about her, nothing that screamed for attention, but her presence had a quiet weight to it. She wasn't trying to impress him. She never had. And maybe that was why she stood out in a world full of people who always wanted something. When the 3 women arrived the next morning, the mansion buzzed with tension. Rebecca entered first, her heels clicking across the marble floor, her perfume filling the air before she even spoke. "Alexander," she purred, her red lips curving into a smile. "You look as though you've been plotting something dangerous." Clarissa followed, draped in a silk blouse and pearls, her gaze sharp as ever. She laughed lightly and said, "Knowing you, it must be something clever. You don't waste time on anything less." Maria came last, wearing a simple gray dress, her hair pulled back, her eyes lowered. She held her hands together, as though unsure why she had been called to sit beside women who lived in such different worlds from her own. Alexander studied them, his expression unreadable. He let the silence stretch, the weight of expectation pressing down on them, until finally, he lifted the black credit card and placed it on the polished desk. "This," he said, his voice deep and deliberate, "is my test. Each of you will take this card. Use it for anything you want. There are no limits, no restrictions. Spend as you please. But remember, what you choose will tell me everything I need to know about you." Rebecca's eyes widened, gleaming with excitement. She snatched the card from his hand with a little gasp, her manicured fingers curling around it, as though she had just been handed a crown. "Anything?" she asked, her voice trembling with eagerness. "Jewelry, fashion, cars, whatever I want. Anything," Alexander confirmed. Clarissa leaned forward, her laughter smooth, confident. "No, this is fascinating," she said. "A true measure of character, isn't it? You want to see how we reveal ourselves with freedom. Don't worry, Alexander. I'll make choices that honor your trust." Her eyes lingered on the card like a hawk circling prey. Then Alexander turned to Maria. She hadn't moved. Her hands trembled as she reached out, hesitating before taking the card as though it might burn her fingers. "Sir," she whispered, her voice unsteady, I don't understand. I don't need anything." Alexander's gaze softened for a fraction of a second, though he quickly masked it. "It's not about need, Maria. It's about truth. Show me what you would do if money was no object." She swallowed hard, nodding, though she still looked confused. "Thank you," she murmured, clutching the card gently as though it were a fragile gift rather than a weapon of limitless wealth. Alexander leaned back in his chair again, steepling his fingers. He studied each of their faces, seeing the excitement, the calculation, the humility. He wondered which of them would surprise him, and which would confirm what he already suspected. Rebecca was already texting someone, her smile wide and triumphant. Clarissa sat with perfect posture, her expression thoughtful, already plotting how best to turn this to her advantage. Maria simply stood there, still holding the card like a borrowed coat she wasn't sure she had permission to wear. For the first time in years, Alexander felt something stir in his chest, anticipation, curiosity, a strange, quiet hope that perhaps this test would show him something money could never buy. As the women left the study, one by one, their footsteps echoing down the long marble hallway, Alexander stared at the empty doorway long after they were gone. He whispered into the silence, "Let's see who you really are." What he didn't know, what he couldn't have guessed, was that one choice, one simple act, was waiting to pierce through his carefully built walls. And it would break his heart in a way he hadn't thought possible. The evening descended on Alexander's mansion like velvet draped across the world. Outside, the gardens glittered with tiny golden lights strung among the hedges, and the fountain at the center sang a soft, rippling song. The air was cool, touched with the sweetness of blooming jasmine. Inside, however, the atmosphere carried a weight that pressed down on everyone in the household. The staff whispered among themselves, curious about the billionaire's unusual test. 3 women had been given the same black credit card, and tonight, they were to return and reveal their choices. Alexander waited in his study, his face carved in stoic calm, though beneath that mask his heart beat a little faster than usual. For years, he had been betrayed by people who pretended to care, only to reveal themselves the moment money entered the picture. He had grown so wary of false love, False friendship, false loyalty. This experiment, this test, was his way of peeling back the glitter and seeing what lay beneath. He poured himself a glass of wine, but barely touched it. Instead, he walked to the window and stared at the reflection of his own face against the night sky. He thought of Rebecca, the model who had always clung to him at events, whispering sweet compliments. He thought of Clarissa, with her poised grace and sharp mind, who flattered him by claiming she valued his intellect above all else. And he thought of Maria, the maid who had always seemed too humble, too gentle for the harsh world around her. He had no idea what she would do with his card. The mystery unsettled him more than he liked to admit. A soft knock interrupted his thoughts. A butler stepped inside. "Sir," he said quietly, "the ladies have arrived." Alexander turned, his expression unreadable. "Send them in." One at a time. The first to enter was Rebecca. She swept into the study like she was walking down a runway, her designer dress shimmering under the chandelier, her hair styled in glossy waves, her lips painted crimson. She was glowing, not from natural warmth, but from the thrill of victory. Her arms were weighed down with glossy shopping bags, each embossed with golden letters Gucci, Prada, Versus, Chanel. The scent of expensive perfume and leather followed her like a cloud. "Darling," Rebecca said, flashing her perfect teeth, "I cannot thank you enough. Truly, you have no idea what this meant to me." She strutted forward, placing the bags in a dramatic heap before him, like a conqueror presenting spoils of war. Alexander remained seated, his expression calm, his eyes narrowing only slightly. "Tell me," he said, his voice low, "what did you buy?" Rebecca laughed, tossing her hair back. "What didn't I buy? The latest handbags, of course. Each season's line. I couldn't resist. A few pairs of stilettos. Oh, and this dress. Do you like it? It cost a small fortune, but it's worth it. Because only the finest should touch my skin." She leaned closer, lowering her voice to a purr. "And only the finest man should stand by my side." Her words were heavy with implication. She wanted him to see her as the perfect match for his wealth, a glamorous jewel to decorate his arm. She beamed with confidence, certain that her purchases had proven her worth. But Alexander only nodded once, his face unreadable. Inside, he felt the hollowness of her choices, but he gave nothing away. He simply raised a hand, and the butler stepped forward to collect her bags. "Thank you, Rebecca," Alexander said quietly. "You may wait outside." Her smile faltered for just a moment, confused by his calm indifference, but she recovered quickly. "Of course," she said lightly, blowing him a kiss as she left the room. The second woman, Clarissa, entered. Unlike Rebecca, she carried no bags. She walked with slow, deliberate grace, her heels clicking softly on the marble. Around her neck shimmered a diamond necklace, its stones catching the light with every movement. She smiled knowingly, her poise perfect, her confidence sharper than Rebecca's shallow sparkle. "Alexander," she said, her voice low and smooth, "I must admit, your little test was illuminating." She tilted her head, the diamonds at her throat glittering like stars. "Some women would waste this opportunity on frivolous things. But I understand you. You are a man of power, of vision. You deserve a woman who reflects that, a woman who makes you look even greater when she stands beside you." She stepped closer, her perfume subtle, her smile practiced. "This necklace," she explained, her fingers brushing over the diamonds, "is more than jewelry. It's a statement, a declaration that I am priceless, and that any man who walks beside me is powerful enough to claim what others cannot." She leaned down slightly, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You don't need another servant or another pretty face. You need a queen." Her eyes searched his, waiting for approval, for admiration. Alexander's face remained still, though inside he sighed. Clarissa was intelligent, yes, and her choice was calculated. But it was still self-serving. The necklace was for her glory, not his, and certainly not for anyone else's good. It was power cloaked as beauty, ego disguised as loyalty. He nodded once, as he had with Rebecca. "Thank you, Clarissa," he said softly. "You may wait outside as well." Her smile twitched slightly, unsure of his reaction. But she tilted her chin proudly and glided out of the room, diamonds flashing until the door closed behind her. Then came Maria. The door creaked open slowly, and Maria stepped inside, her steps hesitant. Her shoulders hunched slightly, as though she did not belong in the grand study. She was not dressed in silks or jewels. She wore the same simple gray dress as before, her hair tied back neatly, her hands gripping a plain plastic bag. The bag looked pitiful compared to the mountain of luxury Rebecca had brought and the diamonds Clarissa displayed. Rebecca and Clarissa, who were waiting just beyond the door, exchanged smug glances when they saw her. Alexander, however, straightened slightly in his chair, his eyes fixed on the modest bag in Maria's hands. She walked forward, her steps careful, and placed the bag gently on the desk before him. Her hands trembled as she opened it, pulling out a folded sweater, a pack of notebooks, some pencils, and a few packets of dried food. The items looked embarrassingly ordinary under the glittering chandelier. I didn't know what you expected me to do," Maria admitted softly, her voice carrying a nervous tremor. She kept her eyes on the items, not daring to look up. "I don't need anything for myself. So I bought these for the children at the orphanage down the street. I used to live there. When I was a little girl. They never have enough food. The winters are hard, and the children." Her voice cracked slightly, and she pressed her lips together before continuing. "The children deserve better than what I had. So I thought, if I could give them even a little warmth, it would be worth it." The room fell silent. The ticking of the clock on the wall grew loud, echoing in the stillness. Rebecca let out a soft laugh from the hallway. Groceries, school supplies, how pathetic. Clarissa chuckled as well, her tone dripping with disdain. She wasted the chance of a lifetime. But Alexander did not hear them. His gaze was locked on the sweater folded neatly on the desk, on the pencils and notebooks stacked with such care, on Maria's trembling hands. He felt a sharp ache in his chest, something raw and unexpected. It wasn't disappointment. It was something deeper, something that threatened to unravel the walls he had built around his heart. Maria, still too shy to meet his eyes, whispered, "I'm sorry if I failed your test, sir." And for the first time in years, Alexander felt his throat tighten. He realized she hadn't failed at all. She had passed in the purest way possible.